Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
Looking back in your time in the military, what positive lessons or inspirational experiences do you remember well?
Well, I know in 1965 I got a letter from the President of the United States telling me that I officially drafted to go into the U.S. Army on a certain date. So on that date I went. My mother, father didn't like it because at the time the war and everything else, and I was the only son that they had. They were afraid, but there's nothing much you could do about it. So I was drafted, went into there, went to basic training in Fort Dix, New Jersey, and it wasn't easy. It was tough. For the training, about 6 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever it is, but I came out as a boy, and when I finished the basic training, I felt like a man, because what I learned there, it taught me a lot, which I would never think that you can be. All the training I had, basically, they're teaching you to be a killer, basically. It's either kill or be killed. So no matter what you did, and then you just became a number. You just was just a number, not a name. All you had to do was know your name, your serial number, and that was my training there. And they sent me to Korea, and I spent 13 months in Korea, up at the DMZ, and then I come out of there and I came home after 14 months, and I was ETS out of the Army then. Then I went for inactive duty, and then standby duty, and I was finished my tour and became a veteran.
Well, it made me feel much more confident in myself. It gave me confidence because of the things I had to do there. It made me appreciate life a lot more and appreciate my family a lot more. It just made me feel better about myself in a lot of ways. In other ways, not so much, but in a lot of ways.
I was drafted in 1965. At the time, I was pretty upset about it because I was too busy hanging out on the corner and being like a downtown smart. So when I got into basic training, I found out that my attitude needed to change really quick. Fortunately enough, looking back now, I remember the things that my father told me about being in the military. He was a decorated war hero. I was very proud of him. And so I changed my attitude real quick, based on mostly what my father had told me about the military. Keep your mouth shut, do what they have to say, and you'll be okay. So that experience alone kind of made a man out of me rather than a young boy that I was. So I've carried that attitude on my entire life, and basically that's kind of the inspiration that I got at the time. So that did me a lot of good.
Well, I guess the positive experiences would be just you start out as a 17-year-old going into the military, and needless to say, somewhat immature, and so there were lots of growing experiences in the military throughout a 30-year total career. So I think what I take from that is just the growth opportunities that I had, and I think they worked.
Well, Out in the field, I knew that I had to depend on the people I was with, because we were a team, and it's something that stayed with me all my life. A lot of these people I'm still friends with, I keep in contact with them.
How do you maintain your physical and emotional health today?
Well, physical health, thank God for my wife. You know, she's into walking, so we go out and walk every day. Even during COVID, 20-degree weather, we were out walking. So physically, you know, I'm doing okay there. Not great, but I'm doing good. And of course, Rose and I, my wife Rose, and we dance and we have a lot of fun. So we're always physically keeping healthy. Emotionally, most of the veterans that have been in war, when they come home, they have a lot to get over emotionally. And that's lasted me 50 years. So trying to deal with the emotional problems that we have, you know, we get help. First you have to recognize that you need help. Once you recognize that you need help, that's the first step. You're on your way to becoming emotionally healthy. So that's how I deal with it now.
Well, I learned a lot because when I was in the Army, you stayed with a bunch of guys in the barracks, and you learned how to do things. They had inspections telling you how to do it. You know, I learned how to tie socks together, wash your clothes. You had to take care of yourself. You had to have personal hygiene. They inspected all the time. Your weapons had to be clean. You had to be able to take that weapon apart, put it back together in the dark. And when you're on a zone, you know, there was no war at that time. Thank God there wasn't, that I wasn't in, but I still did my tour duty, which I was obligated to do. And it taught me a lot. It taught me to live with people that you're not living, excuse me, you're not living with 2 people, you're living with 20 or 30 people in one barracks. And it's not that easy. But you get used to it, you do your tour, and it teaches you a lot. And as of today, I still learn a lot because I was married 54 years, my wife passed away, and I was able to, now I'm able to help myself in a way because I learned it by being myself for 14 months or, you know, in the service. It did teach me a lot.
Well, that's an interesting question because just before I went on active duty, I probably was not the best specimen of health. Probably overweight a little bit, even though I was in the National Guard at the time. But once I got on active duty, I then became much more self-conscious about health, and I also have a heart history with my family, so I was interested more than in making sure that I lived a longer life. Both my parents died at 55, so I needed to try to keep my health going. So I got into routines of running quite a bit and going to the gym, and there were a couple of us in my office had various assignments, and we would go out and run 10 miles at lunchtime. And so that's kind of how I got involved with the health thing with the military, and it's kind of lasted since then, and I still continue to run even today at 73. I usually try to run 5 miles a day on running days if I'm not going to the gym and working out.
Emotional health, I'm doing okay. Physical health, you know, I sort of gained a little bit of what I lost, and other than that, I'm doing fairly well. My doctor says I'm okay now.
How do you pass on to your family your acquired wisdom?
Well, my wisdom there was like I learned a lot there, and to be a different person, maybe a different person, you know, and I have a family, have grandkids and everything else, and what I do is I try to help them, my granddaughter, my grandson. I'm proud of them, what I did to bring my kids up, and they're bringing their kids up better than me. They send them to schools and everything else, and they're learning. My granddaughter, I do marquetry, which is putting like pieces of wood together to make pictures. And she came over the house one day, and we started to do this. And within an hour, she learned how to do it. And today she makes pictures just from cutting with a utility knife and stuff. So she does very well. And it taught me to be a good person, basically to, you know, to be a family person. You know, not that much involved in it, but I'm still the grandfather, and they still love me, I hope. So that's all I can tell you.
So when it comes to my family, a lot of the wisdom that I obtained from my father, I was able to kind of smooth it out, because my dad was kind of like a street guy, so I smoothed it out. And the things that he had taught me about working and have a good work ethic, and being loyal and being dedicated to something, I was able to pass that all on to my children, along with my cooking skills. Both of my boys cook great. And also I have a granddaughter who's like 12 years old. When she comes to the house, the first thing we do is start cooking, and I've taught her how to cook, how to handle knives, and so the skills, I've passed skills on, and hopefully they'll always remember me by that.
Well, I certainly have tried to. As you well know, kids can be somewhat non-receptive if it's coming from a parent. But my son did join the Air Force and put in 6 years in the Air Force at two really terrible assignments. He was at Okinawa for 2 years, and he was in England for 2 years, the kind of assignments that most people would die for. So he got pretty lucky to get those great assignments. And then he maintained his reserve membership after he got out. So then I have two daughters. Neither of them were really inclined to go into the military, but so I was happy that my son at least decided to do that. And I guess to extend the military situation backwards, my father was a bombardier during World War II, and so we kind of had that legacy as well. And then my uncle died on January 1st, 1945 in France, and is buried over in France at Epinal. And so there's kind of a military legacy within the family.
I would like to hope I have, you know. I like to make sure they understand, you know, that things happen in life and you have to be up to the challenge. And I think I've done that. My daughters and my grandchildren are just wonderful people.
Well, during my life, I've always taught them, my sons, twin sons, to respect our country, stuff they did right, stuff they did wrong, in my opinion, and to work hard, have a good job, work ethic.
What do you think your legacy will be?
Hopefully to be, a good father. They appreciate what I've done. They appreciate the fact that I was there and I was always there for them. More than anything else, that, you know. The fact that I always worked hard and they knew it.
Okay, as far as a legacy, let's see. Well, you know, I've tried to live my life meaningful. I've tried to pass love on beyond the family, so that, you know, family and friends, I extend that love to other people, maybe less fortunate people. I'm always trying to help somebody if I can. If I can't help them personally, I try to find somebody that can help them. So those kinds of things, I think, you know, my children will remember me by. And aside from the fact that I'm a good cook and I've transferred that over to them. So she and my little granddaughter and all my grandchildren will remember. And I also tell stories. I have family stories that need to be passed on. I have personal stories, some good, some bad, but I tell the story, and hopefully they'll remember me by that.
Well, I guess I'm not really sure. That just seems kind of like a tough question. Legacy. I guess I don't think too much about legacy. I just want to leave behind something positive for my family to look back on and remember fondly.
My legacy will be, I don't really, I just hope they follow in my footsteps, that I didn't do, all my life. I was married 54 years before my wife passed away, and my legacy is what I try to teach them to bring up, and they follow in my footsteps or better than me and get on the right path, and you will do well, the rest of your time.
The schools, and we were based on Okinawa, and we had locations in Japan, so it was always very interesting, going up there, talking to the Japanese, and eating their delicious steak. They hand rub the beef. They don't have the cow out there. Right. So, it's delicious.
It's any special privilege, and if you don't believe me, just look at that. And he pointed out the window, and Elvis scrubbing a garbage can. And I knew I was in trouble.